My father, whose family was actually very involved in Chicago politics, would sooner have become a Lutheran than vote for a Republican. So my whole background is Democratic. But then I said, my major problem with the Democratic Party of today is this very extreme position that they've taken on abortion. And I said, that's where I just, really balk.
You should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month? Come on. Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
answer the question. Would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th.
You're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me. But as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
but
this,
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting against that.
We'll dialogue if you're willing to set some restrictions. We'll talk to you about that. We'll get behind bills that would restrict the taking of innocent life. So I said, yeah, I'm open to dialogue. But then I began sort of testing the waters. I said, okay, let's say we're having a conversation about this issue. Would you be willing, for example, to limit third trimester abortions? Answer came back, no. I said, how about so-called partial birth abortion? The procedure by which a child basically in the birth canal is killed. Answer came back, no, we would not be willing to give on that. So I said, okay, how about the born alive legislation? You know what that's about. These are laws that say we should protect a child who has somehow, by a miracle, managed to survive an abortion procedure and is now on the table. Would you be willing to support that legislation? And the answer came back, no. And just so you don't think the group I was talking to was particularly intransigent, just a few months ago, Senator Vance proposed this legislation. He said, look, can't we all agree across the aisle that a baby writhing on the table, having survived an abortion procedure, should be protected? Can we all agree with that? And of course, he didn't get the votes to break the Democratic filibuster. So see, here is my question. I said, all right, dialogue. Let's talk about it. But if this is the case, what exactly are we dialoguing about?
So I thought those video tips would be helpful to clarify the extreme Democratic policy in relation to abortion. The debate moderators, I felt, actually allowed the issue to be glossed over a bit, and Bishop Barron really clarified the situation very well. Obviously, Harris and Walz know that the extreme position they represent is only supported by a small minority of people, and that's why the issue was sort of glossed over, wasn't discussed in detail. There's also another issue, the issue of transgenderism, which is of increasing concern to millions of parents, especially across the country. Elon Musk and Jordan Peterson have both suffered deeply because of this issue. There are Trump supporters at the moment, mainly because of this issue, I think, and Trump has promised to ban false pronouns in schools, whereas the Democrats want to promote transgenderism. Here the two men, Peterson and Musk, have a conversation about the issue.
I'm particularly unhappy with what my colleagues in the psychological field have done with regards to gender-affirming care. I think they are a pack of contemptible cowards. Yeah. And I think that everyone who's been involved in this in relationship to minors should go to prison.
I agree.
Okay, why do you agree? What's your oar in the water in this particular? This is the worst medical and psychological malpractice I've ever seen anywhere, including what I've done, what I've studied in reference to historical atrocity. Eugenics, what do you call those? Prefrontal lobotomy, even the sorts of things that were going on in Nazi Germany. At least the bloody Nazis knew it was wrong and tried to hide it.
Yes.
Okay, so why are you engaged in this particular battle? You say,
The so-called gender affirming care, which is a terrible euphemism.
that's for sure.
It's really a child sterilization is what it should be.
No, there's mutilation too. Yeah, we want to make sure that amalgam is
Fair enough.
yeah,
It's child mutilation and sterilization.
under the guise of gender affirming care and compact. Right.
It's evil.
Literally
I think
can't
it's evil.
imagine anything worse than that.
Yes, it's evil. I mean, you're taking kids who are obviously often far below the age of consent.
Yep. Confused, miserable.
Yes, the reality is that almost every child goes through some kind of identity crisis.
That's part of puberty.
Exactly. It's just part of growing up. So it's very possible for adults to manipulate children who are having a natural identity crisis into believing that they are the wrong gender.
Yeah.
And
And
that they need to be the other gender, or they need to be a boy, or boy needs to be a girl, and
then that will solve all their problems.
and that will solve their problems. And then they give them sterilizing drugs, which are called also a misnomer, puberty blocker. These are sterilization drugs, so they can never have children again.
Yeah.
They can have double mastectomies, mutilation.
Have their forearms stripped to build non-functioning penises.
Yeah, it's macabre. And we have an age of consent for a reason. That the reason you can't get, say, tattoos below age 18, or drink, or drive. There are ages at which you can do things, because if we allow children to take permanent actions when they're 10, 12, 14 years old, they will do things that they subsequently greatly regret.
Yes, I've interviewed a couple of people who've done exactly that, and it's
Right.
damn painful.
So I think during
Why are you willing to make this an issue? Do you think?
it happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This was before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and there was a lot of confusion. And I was told, Xavier might commit suicide.
That was a lie right from the outset. No reliable clinician ever believed that. There was never any evidence for that. And also, if there's a higher suicide rate, the reason is because of the underlying depression and anxiety, and not because of the gender dysphoria. And every goddamn clinician knows that too. And they're too cowardly to come out and say it. Okay, so I see. So that's
so I was out into doing this, and it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and I lost my son, essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So there, Peterson and Musk highlight the danger of puberty blockers, and they call this the greatest medical malpractice of the century. Children below the age of consent should not be put on puberty blockers. It destroys their chance to be parents themselves. And the threat of suicide is largely a lie. It has no real scientific support to back it up. So this is quite a major issue which needs to be sorted out over the next couple of years. In relation to that video between Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk, there was also the issue of California politics discussed, in the sense that Musk was considering taking some of his companies out of California because of a recent change in the law there. The governor, Gavin Newsom, he decided to actually bring in a law whereby parents will be denied the opportunity to know if their children are transitioning at school. So that's a very radical sort of some people call that progressive, but a lot of other people are concerned about it progressing in the wrong direction. He's another one of those woke radicals. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel, and that's it for today.